You are live.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Great. Good evening for the legions of folks watching. This is Matt DeFranti, Chair of the Northern Virginia Transportation Commission. Welcome to the NVTC Executive Committee, November 7th, 2024 meeting. We are starting the meeting at 6:04. This is an all virtual meeting, and NVTC staff followed the procedures and guidelines in our electronic participation policy to give notice to the commission staff and the public. This meeting is simultaneously being broadcast to the public on YouTube. Thanks, Melissa. For those listening on YouTube, if the live stream transmission fails, please contact NVTC staff via email at support@novatransit.org, which that will be monitored during the meeting. Important reminders. Please mute your microphone when you're not speaking to help cut down on the background noise. We do have a chat function available, but no public business can be conducted over chat, so I'd prefer you do not use it. Please keep your cameras on so you can be counted towards quorum. We have one over quorum, I think, at the moment, so maybe two now with Dahlia. Welcome. I didn't quite see, but so one of us can leave, but for all votes, everybody has to be on. And I'm not sure that we have too many votes, but in any event, please keep your cameras on in general, and we will try to move expeditiously. I will now ask Board Administrator Rhonda Gilchrist to conduct the roll call for quorum purposes. She will also announce the staff who are participating virtually. Please respond with here or present when your name is called.
Chair DeFranti.
Here.
Mr. Geary.
Here.
Mr. Elkhorn.
Here.
Ms. Bagley.
Here.
Mr. Eben.
Here.
Ms. Palchuk.
Here.
Mr. Smedberg.
Present.
Mr. Snyder. Don't believe he's on. And to keep things short, I'm not going to announce staff.
Okay.
We have quorum.
Great. Thank you. There is a summary of the October 3rd, 2024 Executive Committee meeting with us. We do not have any required action, but we do want to make sure it's accurate. Anyone have any corrections? Seeing no hands and no virtual hands, we'll move on to agenda item 2. NVTC's work towards long-term sustainable dedicated funding. Over to you, Kate.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, this is something we're going to have on this agenda moving forward. We actually don't have a lot of activity since the last time we met. There's been a lot of working group and staff level activities. And so I do know we'll have a little bit more shared at the main meeting. But just in general, the next SJ28 meeting is actually coming up this coming Tuesday at NVTC's offices. And the next DMV Moves meeting is going to be on November 14th. So I don't know, Senator Eben, I know we've got you saying some items a little bit later this evening. Anything quick you want to add just for the good of the order?
Well, the SJ28 meeting, we're going to start to zero in on alternative funding possibilities as recommended from the Technical Advisory Committee. So we won't be making final decisions, but we're going to try and identify several more to the ones that were enumerated in the resolution. And that's all we have to report now. We'll have more next month after that meeting.
Great. Kate, and that's short. I think I got a cancellation of November 14th DMV Moves meeting this afternoon. And
Okay.
I don't know.
So I'll update that. So I don't get those directly. We do have a staff level meeting earlier that day.
And
let me see if I can get a little intel on that from others so we can make sure those notes are accurate for later on.
Paul, did you have any?
Do you know?
Does this ring a bell, or I got it from Monica? I don't know, that we would not be having November 14th and just December 2nd. Does that sound right or no?
For DMV Moves?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll update that.
Yeah, there was just so much going on, Matt. And
Yes.
the CAO group and others are meeting, and there's just so much happening. And then you have the holidays, or Thanksgiving. And they were just trying to cram so much in. We decided yesterday, talked to Randy and Clark, that we were going to just focus on December 2nd.
That sounds good to me. Meetings without,
Yeah, everyone was very happy to hear it. at the board
Yes.
meeting this morning. Yeah.
Great, thanks, Paul. And Kate, does that cover with?
Yeah,
SB
that's it.
28?
I was gonna say lots of homework going on right now. And as I said, we're gonna talk a little bit more about some of the things sort of launching into the new year, sort of akin to what Senator Eben was speaking about.
Great. Any other questions about SJ 28 or DMV moves? Seeing none, we'll go on to the review of the November 7th, 2024, tonight's meeting, full meeting.
Yep.
Kate?
So thank you, Mr. Chair. We did not receive any public comments tonight. Just a heads up though, next month we'll actually have our public hearing, which is something actually in our bylaws. So that's an opportunity for the public to either come in person or submit online comments on the work that NVTC is doing. We typically do an outreach on that ahead of time. So that's going to be December's meeting. So it's just a heads up on that. When it comes to tonight, we don't have a lot of action items, but we do have some briefings. The action items that we have within the consent agenda, we have the 2025 meeting schedule reflecting the conversations we've had here. Of note, the January meeting will be in the middle of January, sort of a couple weeks in, so we don't conflict with the new year. February will just be the reception down in Richmond. July will also be not conflicting with the 4th of July holiday and move till middle of the month. And we can make that all virtual if we need to. And finally, in terms of a full commission meeting, we are not going to conflict with Yom Kippur. So for October, we're only going to have committee meetings 2 weeks later. So that's what's in the meeting schedule that we're proposing. Again, doing our best to deconflict from holidays as well as make sure that we're able to continue, obviously, the important commission work. The other action items we have is every so many years, we actually have our communications folks. We work with a graphic design and printing firm. And so this is basically the RFP for creative services. It's time for us to go out and look for some competition in that space. So that's what the second thing is on the consent agenda. And finally, the last action item we have there is actually for us to do a request for proposals for technical support to support SJ 28. As I know, we've had some conversations around the commission. There was intended to be some funding provided within that language that just didn't come together when the budget amendments and what have you went through to support SJ 28. So we've identified some funding within NVTC's existing research budget, as well as getting funding committed from VRE and PRTC to help issue an RFP for that analytical support. As Senator Eben was saying, there's going to be lots of running of different revenue types, sort of statewide or whatever. And so this is really to bring in some economists to help with that work. DRPT has a bench contract, so we could actually go out and do a fairly quick turnaround on getting a couple of firms that are already pre-qualified to turn around for that work. So that's the RFP that's there. Andrew's going to mention it briefly as a part of the bigger DMV moves WMATA conversation later this evening. Anybody have any questions about that?
Not
We are
about
very
that.
fortunate actually for both VRE and PRTC to say they'd help pay for it. So I really appreciate it. It was very wonderful they could do that. Other highlights for the
Kate,
Yeah.
just a second. Sarah had a question, I think.
Oh, sorry. Actually, I didn't want to cut you off when you were talking
Yeah.
about the schedule for the year, but I did just want to flag for like quorum concerns and Rhonda's that Kanek and I and our alternate have our installation on January 2nd.
That's why we're
So-
moving it.
Oh, we did. Oh, I missed that. I'm sorry. I was
Yeah,
looking at the
no,
calendar.
that's part of the reason that
Oh,
we
okay.
wanted to move.
Okay.
The January meeting would have been on the 2nd, which
Okay.
is also the 2nd. But also recognizing that you had your swearing in, so we've
Okay.
got it scheduled. Rhonda, remind me, I think it's the 16th. Is that the
16th, Thursday the
16th.
16th. Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry. I think I was
No, that's okay.
like,
You've been
okay,
busy.
Thank you. Well, thank you for that move. I appreciate it.
We did our best. We're doing our best to deconflict from important occasions like that. So
I argued vociferously against that, but didn't win. So back to you, Kate.
So we all go skiing over. Just kidding. So the other things I wanted to highlight for the evening meeting, where you're going to get briefed on our annual report on the performance and condition of WMATA. That is going to be the first overview. There's been obviously lots of conversation in the WMATA committee on that. So this is the first introduction of it to the commission. action and approval on that will be at December. Likewise, this is the first commission-wide briefing on the legislative agenda. VREs as well will also be tonight. And then also we're coming back. We actually briefed the commission earlier in the year, but we do have the written strategic plan for Route 7, consistent with what we already briefed, but we want to remind commissioners again, it's basically a two-tier strategy. One is moving towards a longer-term BRT, full BRT, but also introducing a lot of capital projects along the way so that we actually get better bus earlier than waiting for the full program. So that's that strategic plan. So that's being briefed. That also will be seeking approval next month. And then finally, we do have our normal reports, including from the DRPG director, VRE, and obviously our committee chairs. Finally, we'll be wrapping up the evening with a closed session for my review, but I know you're going to do a little bit of that this evening as well in this meeting. So that is all for this evening.
Great. Other questions besides Sarah's
Quick
earlier
question.
one?
Matt, yeah,
Go ahead.
If I may.
Talia.
awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Kate. I was wondering, as we talk about BRT, sort of where's the MVTC status and look at the proposed Better Bus Network redesign, and is that being looked at sort of concurrently?
So the Better Bus Network redesign is something that WMATA, I think they're about to do the approvals on that. So everything that we've been doing for Route 7 has been in close coordination, both with WMATA as well as Fairfax County and the other jurisdictions. So everything is very much in alignment for that. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Great. I'm glad you asked. And you may hear background noises. It's proof that I'm in for a succinct meeting later tonight. Let's see. Moving on to administrative items. Kate, back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as you may have seen with some communications, we have some staff moving out and moving up within NBTC. As you may have seen, Alan is actually moved over this week to be working at the Federal Transit Administration, the Office of Policy. He just started earlier this week. Ben is taking a sabbatical and taking a little bit of a break from working. And so we're very excited for their, new adventures. But in the meantime, it actually provided us the opportunity to do some promotions. And so Andrew, after much consideration, and he's been with us for 8 years, he's the new director of program and policy. You guys have seen a lot of Andrew, some more than others even of Andrew. So he's really ready to take on this task. I'm very excited to have him join me and Scott, sort of our partners in crime here. And also we were able to take 3 of our program analysts and promote them to program managers. And so that's Adam, Sophie, and Daniel. You're going to hear from Adam and Daniel this evening as they take on. All 3 of those staff have been working a lot in their areas. They're now basically being promoted to have more of a leadership role within those. So that's WMATA, commuter choice, and in our data visualization work. So a super congratulations for them. It does mean we do have some vacancies. We're going to be moving to fill those shortly. And those will be junior positions, which are just wonderful ways to start off at NVTC. So that's our current staffing plan. Just other couple things. We do have our December 13th legislative forum that has gone out. We've actually got something like over 100 and some RSVPs, and that was before we even said who was going to be there. We do plan on having the general managers from our transit systems, like we always do, participate, but we also have a special panel that includes Senator Evan, Delegate Sickles, Senator Boysko, and Chair McKay talking about SJ28 and DMV moves, and we're going to have that moderated by Nick Donahue. We're also working on a couple of other General Assembly members that might be in leadership roles, but I'm not going to say those until I get those confirmed, but we may see some senior leadership in House Appropriations and in the Senate as well, just for sort of opening and closing remarks, but we'll see how that comes together.
Kate, so who's on that panel again? Who's representing DMV moves?
So DMV moves, I've got Jeff McKay, and I guess we have, and Delegate Sickles, and then I've got Senator Evan and I'm starting to lose my
Senator Boysko.
Thank you.
Boysko.
Senator Boysko.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely. So, so we're looking forward to that. If folks have any questions about that event, I do know, and I don't think I know, Ms. Bagley, I think you're probably the only one with the overlap. We're working with VRE on their scheduling. We're going to want to do everything they can that they can perhaps work their ops board meeting that it doesn't conflict with this event. I've been talking to Mr. Dalton about that, so we hope we can find a way to make that work for everybody to be where they need to be. Okay. I'd like to now turn over to Scott, who's just going to give a brief overview of our proposed budget. The budget was included with the material that was sent to you. There's no action at this time, but this is the opportunity for Scott to give the overview. It comes back to this committee for approval to then brief the commission next month for approval at our January meeting. So Scott, can you go ahead and give a little bit of an overview of the budget?
Sure will. I promise I will be brief, but if you bear with me, I'd like to share my screen. This is just of the document that Kate mentioned that you have. Okay, so yeah, Kate pretty much explained the process. So we always bring this to the executive committee in November for any comments that you might have before we actually prepare the proposed budget. So fiscal year 26 is a fairly straightforward year. We're able to keep the total expenditures to 2.9% increase over last year's budget. And as shown here on page 2, the budget includes 4 main expense categories. We've got salaries and wages at the top, employee benefits, administrative costs, and contract services. So payroll here shows an increase of $99,000, which is a 3.6% increase. The budget holds the number of positions constant and includes a provision for COLA and merit increases. Next down here, total employee benefits increase is only $7,000, which is 1%. This includes an increase in health insurance costs due to rising premiums and also a decrease in retirement contributions because there's available forfeited funds that will apply against the fiscal year 26 contributions. Total administrative costs are budgeted to increase by $32,000, and this is due mostly to an increase in rent, which is based upon the terms of our lease. Moving on to the revenue side, which is page 1, the budget is mostly funded by jurisdictional contributions, and most of it is from state aid received by NVTC on behalf of the member jurisdictions that we apply towards our budget. Total jurisdiction contributions increased by $183,150, which is roughly 5%. Other revenue includes interest, project chargebacks, project grant billings, and they all remain relatively flat. Another source of revenue for our budget each year is a carryover of available surplus funds. And for this year, it's $50,000 less than what was available in the prior year's budget. That's what I have. Are there any questions or comments?
That was brief and
Matt, I'm looking for a hand, but I couldn't find it. Can I ask a question?
sure, go ahead, Walter.
Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This might actually be more for Kate. I know one of the items we have is to do that research and support of transit funding. Is that in the budget? And can you kind of talk to where that's going to be absorbed?
So it's going to be absorbed in this year's budget. So this is proposed for next year.
So it's not going to roll in the next year at all.
We have a budget line item that's $250,000 for research, as directed by the commission.
Yeah.
We had some savings from previous year. We have it within this year's, so this fiscal year's budget. But that's the line item that it would be coming from. But we're not actually going to be using all of the $250. We anticipate $85,000 in combined contribution from VRE and PRTC to support that project.
Okay, and we think
So
it
it's
can
already
be absorbed in
existing
the
funds.
current year. It wouldn't have to
Yep.
go into next year.
Yeah, and that actually was one of the things, there was a conversation whether we should be seeking additional funding from the General Assembly, but that would actually not be available until the work is likely to be done because of the
Very good.
delay in the fiscal year. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Appreciate that.
Good question. Appreciate it. Other questions on the budget? Since we're virtual and since my eyes might not have gotten every piece of that, Scott, we may want to, in December, we may want to be ready for a little bit more robust conversation, digging in.
Okay.
But appreciate you adding it for this one. Let's see, you covered everything I was trying to, so I think that we've got, we're all set on the slate of officers. I think you mentioned that as well. So we are ready now to go to closed session. Timing worked out great for Adam and Paul. For the benefit of the listening public, we do plan to return to open session. The YouTube feed will continue with it muted and a screen notice stating that we are in closed session. The meeting will resume live when we return to open session. In case of technical difficulties and the live feed is interrupted, viewers should check our YouTube channel for a new feed. Can I have let's see. I will go ahead and make a motion and look for a second to move into closed session. Pursuant to the Virginia, I think I could just go directly to the text of the motion, the focus of the motion. Pursuant to the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, Section 2.2311A1 of the Code of Virginia, the NVTC Executive Committee moves to convene a closed session to discuss a personnel matter concerning the Executive Director's performance evaluation. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Chair Emeritus or Dahlia. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the board administrator will now call the roll for the vote. Over to you, Rhonda.
Chair DeFrenti,
Yes.
Mr. Gary,
Yes.
Mr. Alcorn,
Aye.
Ms. Bagley,
Aye.
Mr. Eben,
Aye.
Ms. Palchik,
Aye.
Mr. Smedberg,
Aye.
and I see Mr. Snyder joined us.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. The motion
Great.
passes. I'll turn it back to the chair.
Great. All staff will be put in the lobby. Check on this. And then I've got some, I'm going to share my screen. I think the rest is not for me to read, but actually to be a conscious chair. So, we'll go ahead and work the NVTC staff, and Kate, I will email you when it's time to come back in. Everybody's got to click join for us, please.
So Rhonda, it's just you and me in the breakout room?
No, you're
You're
being
muted.
streamed. You should mute.
So, maybe Kate, I think everybody's here. So I will move and look for a second when I'm done that we certify with respect to closed session. The Northern Virginia Transportation Executive Committee certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge and with no individual member dissenting at the just concluded closed session, only public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirements under the Freedom of Information Act were discussed, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed session was convened were heard, discussed, or considered. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none,
I
the
will do that.
administrator, Rhonda, would you call the roll, please?
So actually, I will do that. She's over tending
Okay.
to the next meeting. So Chair DeFerranti,
Yes.
Mr. Aguirre,
Aye.
Mr. Alcorn,
Aye.
Miss Bagley,
Aye.
Mr. Eben,
Aye.
Miss Palchik,
Aye.
Mr. Smedberg,
Aye.
Mr. Snyder.
Yeah.
The motion passes.
Great. With that, folks, we are adjourned. Bio break. See you at 7. Thanks so much.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Anne, are you on?